Hello and welcome to ChapterSkip. I'm Mark.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Sean, and we're bringing you movie reviews with a twist.
And we're reviewing the film Hellbenders.
Now, what do you get when you mix a bunch of blasphemous misfits, demonic possession, and small things getting bitten? Well, you could be describing us here at ChapterSkip.
But for the purposes of this review, we're actually talking about the film Hellbenders. J.T. Petty's graphic novel adaptation Hellbenders is directed by the man himself.
JT mixes the horror genre with comedy and throws in an added sprinkling of religious satire in there for good measure too. The film focuses on a group known as the Augustine Interfaith Order of Hellbound Saints of Brooklyn Parish.
And this crew consists of a bunch of priests from all different denominations of the Christian faith that have come together so they can exorcise demons in a slightly different fashion from what most people are used to seeing.
Now, the thing that separates these priests from any other normal priests is that these ones are always sinning and breaking all of the 10 Commandments so that they can keep their sin count nice and high in order to be taken to hell along with a vicious demon when the time calls for it.
Now, Hellbenders opens up with a nice little section that has a collection of interviews and so on that reminded me a little of the opening of District 9, and it works really well as a quick introduction into the story and the characters that was further aided by the Last Supper style image with all the characters seated at a table and then having a little character bio popping up alongside them.
The leader of the Hellbound Saints is Angus and is played by Clancy Brown.
Angus is the most experienced priest and doesn't care which commandment he breaks or sin that he partakes in as long as he can be condemned to hell when the time comes. His sins see no bounds as he doesn't care if it's drink, drugs, girls or guys, as long as it's against God's will, he'll do it. For the greater good, of course.
The rest of the priests consist of Lawrence, played by Clifton Collins Jr., Stephen, played by Andre Royo, Elizabeth, played by Robin Raccoon, Macon, played by Macon Blair, and Eric, played by Dan Fogler.
Now the guys and girl are going about their normal routine of fighting demons and enjoying some of life's excesses when they get disrupted by their biggest threat ever, in the form of the new Pope's dog's body, Clint, who's played by Stephen Geverden.
And he is indeed a complete Clint, as he thinks the group of wild priests are not necessary and that they should be disbanded.
Just think of this as a grown-up version of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, with the priest being the Ghostbusters and Clint being that right Clint from the EPA that turned off the containment system and freed all the spooks. Although the supernatural beasties in this do more than just leave you with a coating of slime, as they're prone to biting bits from people, be it toes, eyes, ears, or even your nose.
Could be worse.
Being disbanded, or having portions of themselves bitten off, or even having a massive Clint harassing them aren't the only problems that this group face, however, as there's also the fact that the world is on the verge of the apocalypse, and interestingly, for the film of this nature that deals with demonic possession, it's not Satan that seeks to end all life, but something else entirely.
Although to find out what, you have to watch the film, because we're not telling you. Sorry.
As well as having an original enemy and an interesting plot idea, there are also plenty of other interesting things going on throughout the film to keep it feeling fresh and to help it maintain its pace throughout its almost an hour and a half runtime.
Although for me this film did not live up to expectations. Now, it doesn't mean that it was a total disaster because there were some great moments in the movie, but on the whole, it really didn't do anything amazing to make it stand out. The movie seemed to have no real threat to the whole thing, so it felt kinda lackluster. Almost like all it cared about was seeing how many depraved things they could come up with to make people laugh, rather than building and guiding the story to give off the imminence of the apocalypse, and this made me feel quite bored through large chunks of the movie.
The performances are all great, with the characters having just the right mix of being slightly psychotic, slightly neurotic, and yet still having the vulnerable side to them that made them all interesting and fairly likeable characters.
At least the ones you're supposed to like anyway, because the rest of them are a load of clints.
And there are some nice details in the settings and the props too, that help everything feel like part of the world in which the movie is being set. A particular favourite of mine being the sin ledger that the group uses to keep track of all their various activities.
Okay boys, since the last tally up, has anyone done any major sinning?
Well, Joe dug up some corpses and used them in his special tea blend the other day.
Oh, okay. So that's the use of narcotics, and we'll throw in some necrophilia as well too. Looking good, Joe?
Well, you guys captured and tortured me in the bathroom a few weeks ago, if you remember. And Max singing alone must count as a sin.
Oh, don't forget that Joe stabbed an intruder in the face with a tin opener. And he defecated in public.
Oh yeah. Good old Steve.
Yeah, what about you, Sean? You're looking a little bit squeaky clean now.
Well, I did take the Lord's name in vain a couple of times. I exposed my privates in public. And I spent a good amount of time researching Sasha Grey for our Open Windows trailer review. That's got to count for something, surely.
I don't know. If touching your junk in your own private time counts as a sin, then I guess we're all going to hell.
Yeah, Sean, I don't think you're damnation ready. I think you need to top up your sin tally.
Well, last Sunday I skipped church, went to watch Thor, and thought, God damn, Chris Hemsworth is a sexy man. Then I realised the Norse god with a badass hammer was the only god worth worshipping.
Not bad, but that's only 3 at the 10 Commandments broken.
You're right. Well, I went home after the movie, killed my parents, and realised, what do I do with their bodies? Then I remembered that my neighbour has got a sweet ass carpet that I've been admiring. So I went round there, broke in, stole the carpet, saw, oh, they've got a nice little fish tank, ate their fish, wasn't even hungry. Then I rolled my parents up into the carpet, set fire to it, watched it burn whilst listening to Slayer.
Normal day then.
Yeah, I was taking it easy. All in all, this was a middle-of-the-road kind of movie. There were things that I liked about it, and there were things that I hated. So I can't really say much other than it was alright. For me, this isn't the kind of flick that I would watch again, so I don't think I'll grab a copy of the DVD. I think if you're on the fence about watching it, then maybe give it a shot. If you're a fan of horror comedies, then this just might do it for you. Unfortunately, it really didn't do it for me.
This film was awesome, like some sort of religious Ghostbusters, hunting down the possessed in comedic fashion and breaking every deadly sin along the way.
I thought this was a really good film that managed to mix comedy, horror and a few other things in there as well, without ever letting one element over-dominate the proceedings, so that the comedy, for example, never overshadowed the other parts of the story, as could quite easily have happened. JT Petty has done a great job of not only telling an interesting story, but of directing a damn good movie too, and if the little bit during the credits is leading into another film, then you can bet I'll be ready to dive in and get myself knee-deep in demonic filth and sacrilege once more. And if I can never find it, I'll be checking out the graphic novel as well, and this film gets my recommendation.
Thanks for watching this Hellbenders movie review. If you enjoyed this review, then please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We would also like for you guys to tell us what you thought of Hellbenders. Leave your comment below and let us know. As well as liking and subscribing, you can also help us out by tweeting about this review. Remember to use #ChapterSkip. Thanks.
Now what do you get when you mix a bunch of blasphemous misfits?
You get ChapterSkip.
Yeah! What do you get when you mix a bunch of blasphemous misfits? That's hard to say.
Now I thought the performance, the and the props that help fit,
The props that help. So it felt very lackluster, almost like it cared about how it's seeing how laugh rather than building the ground about and guiding. Man.